Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm Fiel and Lemuel's dad. Today I'm reading the Woof, Chapter 19, and the title of this chapter is The Jigsaw Theory. Eric became a boy again in the Punch and Judy tent at 3:35 p.m. The timetable after that was as follows. 3:40 p.m. Eric emerged and was caught in the act by Mrs. Jessup, who had something to say. 3:45 p.m. Eric got his drink but was too late to take part in the long jump. 3:53 p.m. Hopper won the high jump but broke the cane. 4 p.m. Joanne and Allison created a problem in the girls' three-legged race. Having qualified for the final with different partners, they now expected to run together. 4:10. The cloud grew darker and a light drizzle began to fall. Emily came joined fourth in a speeded up fancy dress parade and won a set of felt pants. 4:12. Roy ran in the relay. Mr. Blocker had something to say and about his lack of kit. He refused Roy permission to run in his hat. 4:20. A roll of thunder was heard. 4:24 p.m. Raleigh was declared the overall winning house and a provisional PTA profit of £263 was announced. 4:30 p.m. The rain fell more heavily. Eric and Roy set off for home. On the way, they took shelter once or twice in shop doorways when the rain fell even more heavily. Among other things, they discussed Roy's zombie dog theory, whether Emily had really recognized Eric when he was a dog, the content of a chemist's window, bags, that diabetic chocolate. And finally, in Clay Street, Eric's alibi. Eric said, "Why, see, what they'll think is I left the back door open and the TV on, went out without my clothes or kit, and let a dog get in. How can I explain that?" "Say you forgot," said Roy. He flicked the rain from his hat. "Or did it for a bet or something." "Did what for a bet?" "Anything. All of it." That's what I'd say. Of course, from one point of view, Eric's best alibi would have been the truth. At least that way, there'd be no need to make anything up or risk of forgetting what he'd already said. Unfortunately, it was a bit late for the truth, in Eric's opinion. Besides, his mom and dad would never believe him. They'd think he was making the truth up. So Eric arrived home and in due course told his story. He'd done it for a day, he said. Roy had come round. He'd put Roy's kit on. Roy had run off with his apple. Eric had chased him up the road. Then later, Roy had lost his watch and they'd looked for it. And by that time, Eric rambled on, surprising even himself with his own inventiveness. His mom, however, was less impressed. "That's the biggest rigmarole I've ever had," she said. "What happened really?" Eric's punishments, when they finally came, were a telling off from his mom and a long speech from his dad about dogs getting about dogs getting in who could easily have been burglars. A gorilla could get in, Emily said, and TV sets blowing up and the danger of wearing other people's clothes. He was sent to bed early on Saturday, kept in on Sunday, and scrutinized more closely than ever by his mum for much of the following week. When Eric and Roy met on the paper round on Monday, Roy said, "What did they say?" Eric told him. Then Roy revealed that he'd had a telling off for lending his kit. Then he said, "Listen, I saw Kenny yesterday. His cousin had a video. Guess what it was?" "What?" "Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde." "Never heard of it." "No, me," said Roy, "but Kenny said it's about the man, this scientist, who drinks this stuff and turns into this other man." "What stuff?" "I don't know. A potion or something. So anyway, I've been thinking, perhaps that's it." But Eric was unconvinced. He hadn't drunk many potions lately, he said. Later, on the way to school, Eric told Roy about an idea he'd had, or rather was beginning to have. It had occurred to him first on Sunday morning while he was eating his breakfast, part of which was a boiled egg. "I was thinking, eggs turn into chickens, don't they? And nobody says that's strange. And chrysalises turn into butterflies. And tadpoles into frogs," said Roy. "Yes, and all that. And yet a boy turns into a dog, and that's strange." "Well, it is strange," said Roy. They crossed the road and entered the front playground. A game of mass football was in progress. 4th years against the rest. Eric said, "I don't know. I mean, you could say everything's strange." "Or nothing is," said Roy. "Yes, I mean, I bet a Martian think a boiled egg was strange." "He might not," said Roy. He might look like one." A rush of players went by and Eric missed this last remark, or chose to ignore it. "Or a safety pin," he said. "Or a blade of grass." "He'd think you changing into a dog was strange," Roy said. During assembly, Roy asked Eric if a Martian would think Mr. Blocker was strange. Later, in the classroom, he rolled his trouser leg up to show Eric how strange knees were, and got a fierce look from Mrs. Jessup. After that, there were distractions. Mrs. Jessup was in an energetic mood. There was a fire drill at 10 o'clock and more mass football at playtime, into which Eric and Roy, not to mention Mr. Hodge and Mr. Moody, got drawn. There was a meeting for school camp children at lunchtime, and in the afternoon, a talk for the 3rd year from a man who wrote children's books. Eric, however, found time to think about things, even if he didn't manage to discuss them with Roy. It still seemed to him that strangeness was a strange business. On the way home, as he passed Russell's sweet shop without looking in, he said, "I've been thinking." "Me too," said Roy. "What if strange things happened all the time? That'd be very strange, said Roy. No, it wouldn't. That's the point. It'd be normal. It'd be like if everybody had two heads. Nobody would think twice about it. They'd all think twice if they had two heads, said Roy. He was balancing along the wall outside the old people's home. Eric jumped up and followed him. They watched a police car going down Joining's bank. Roy said, I've got a better idea. Perhaps every time you turn into a dog, somewhere in the universe, some poor dog is turning into you. Eric considered this for a moment. It wasn't bad, Roy said. Like a sort of jigsaw, maybe, with a picture on both sides, and your bit just gets turned over now and then. And it's got a dog on the back, said Eric. Yes. Roy dropped off the wall. Eric followed. They stepped aside to let a woman with a wide pushchair with twins and shopping in it go by. Eric kicked a cigarette packet into the gutter. Who's doing the turning though? He said. Well, that's the end of chapter 19. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Bye.